Hi, welcome to the Shepherd's Rest Doc Talk. This is episode 87A.
I'm Cameron, this is Julie. This week's Torah portion will be going from Exodus 30, verse 11, to the end of chapter 34. It's 34-35. So we normally would talk about the sin of the golden calf this week, because that's kind of, the big deal. However, if you'll go check out last year's, which is 34A, that is the bulk of the discussion from last year. So I thought we would talk about some other things that are in this week's portion, which are just as good, and we didn't get to cover. So together, those two should make for a fantastic listening. Let's start this week with the very beginning, which is verse 11, 12, and 13, which is talking about taking the census. It's the Lord telling Moses, when you guys are going to count, take a census, take a sum of the people. Right. You're going to not actually count heads like 1, 2, 3.
You don't want a number.
Right. The Lord does not number his people. He knows us by name. Even the stars he knows by name. So how much more us, right?
Right.
So he says you're going to collect a half shekel. That half shekel is then going to be given to the temple or the tabernacle to be used. Again, this is allowing the people to be involved in the tabernacle all year long, okay? We see this set up as a precedence. In Numbers 1, we see where the Lord commands Moshe to take a census. There was nothing wrong with counting the people when the Lord said to do so. We see during Yeshua's time that they're basically doing the temple tax, taking the half shekel every year. That is a debated thing. Some say no, you only do it when you do the census. Some say no, you only collect when you're counting them, redeeming them as young children. And then some say no, it was to be collected every year. That's the money that helped allow the temple or the tabernacle to remain active, to buy the things that they needed.
Right.
All right. So we see, though, in the time in 2 Samuel, I believe it's 34, we see where David, it says in 1 Chronicles, it's kind of doing the same story, paralleling the story with a few little pieces of information. And that one says that Hasatan came and stirred David to count.
Right.
The 2 Samuel just says that the Lord was very displeased and David counted.
Right.
Now, both of these are coming off of great victories. We have to be careful, because a lot of times where our most dangerous time is when we are on a high from something great that happened.
That is so true.
So here we have David, who's like, woo, look how great this is. Let's count the people. Let's see how mighty we are. Instantly, there's the thought of, God is fighting for you, and yet let's figure out how many we have. Look at how great we are. Right. So when David does this, a plague comes upon him. We see this in this week's Torah portion, who said, if you count without taking an atonement, without doing the half shekel for each person, and that's half shekel regardless of whether you think they're great or small, whatever, because each person is equal in the Lord's eyes as far as the worth of life. But we see with David, because he did not, he took the census, but he did not collect. He didn't take the half shekel. They just went out and counted.
Right.
Did it the way the nations did it. The Lord allowed there to be counting, but not the way the nations do it. So when David did this, he was presented with 3 possible plagues. One was famine that would come 7 years on the kingdom. One was that he would be chased, his life would be chased and his family for 3 months. And the next one was 3 days to be in the hands of the Lord, and the plague would come. And David's response was, well, I think I'd rather be in the hands of the Lord for 3 days, because he will be merciful in the end. So he chose that. Yet even in the end, when the angel of the Lord, which I think is interesting, because it's the angel of the Lord that's doing all the destruction.
Yeah.
But, we want to say that that's like Messiah and he's so loving. Well, he's the angel of the Lord. Yes. And he
has different roles, just like we all do.
Exactly. And that role, he is administering the plague. So here we see a plague will come, and it's interesting because here in Samuel we see actually what happens. He is a God of his word. He sends the plague.
Yeah.
On a side note about the half shekel, I throw this in there. Matthew 17 speaks of this, where Peter comes up, they're having the discussion, and their discussion is basically how much should we do, send money to the temple as well, do the tax, anyway. And Yeshua's response is, go open the fish's mouth, get the shekel, the whole shekel, and pay for me and you, Peter. to the temple tax.
Yeah.
So that, had they been doing a count, now think about it, that would mean that they're actually doing a count, a census every year that they collect the temple tax. So they always know what the possible army of Israel would look like.
Right.
They just didn't have necessarily a leader at the time that would take them out. That's what they were hoping Messiah would do.
I was going to say that. That's what Judas and so many other of the zealots were hoping, that Messiah would be the one to, rally the troops.
And he wasn't even, he didn't even care about counting it. He was like, yeah, go ahead and do it. But if he was there to do that at the time, then he would have been like, yeah. How many? What's that number? Make sure you give your half shekel so we can count it, right? But that wasn't his concern. Moving down a little bit, we see where there's the brazen altar, all right? And this is where the water's put in. And I love this because it talks about how the priests, before they go in and out, or before they go in, they have to wash. They wash their hands and their feet. Right? They've already been anointed. They've already been set apart. Right. What they do and how they walk. But we see Yeshua washing the hands and feet of the disciples. Now, it's very clear in the scripture this week that says you wash your hands and your feet before you approach in the Holy of Holies, or in the holy place, and the brazen altar. So even before you approach a sacrifice, and suddenly it hit me. Yeah.
Oh, can I guess?
Yes.
And then you can tell me if I'm right or wrong. I would think, because without, washing is kind of like washing in the Word, studying the Word. But how do you know you need to bring a sacrifice if you're not versed in the Word? Because it's the Word that tells you that you're in the wrong and you need the sacrifice.
I like that. That's
that right?
not where I was going, but I like that one a lot. Yes. And, I was going to say on the washing the Word, because this is, now we are washing in the Word. That's what we do. And the way we can draw near and be cleansed is through the Word.
Right.
But when Messiah is doing it, get this, he's about to go be the sacrifice, isn't he?
Yes.
And for these disciples who are going to be in the presence of the sacrifice, they have to have their hands and feet washed. Isn't that cool?
Yes, I love it.
I was reading that this morning.
Love it.
And I suddenly went, well, no wonder he's telling us that.
Yeah.
And Moses is the one doing it to them at first. Messiah is doing it to his heavenly priesthood at first.
Yes.
But here on the flip side, Messiah is also the actual sacrifice that they're in contact with.
Yeah.
Love it.
Very good.
Further down in 30, we see where we have the anointing oil and the incense. Now, both of these, we have to be so careful. I mean, I can remember seeing on, I don't remember what Christian station it was, and if I did, I wouldn't say it. But they were selling the anointing oil, and it's miraculous. If you just put it on your arm, miraculous. I have no idea why that came out of my mouth like that, but it did. And so, miraculous, that's right. It's really going to do great things for you.
Yes.
And you see them selling this. And then even the incense. I mean, you see this being used in several churches still today. They do the incense. And it's very clear these are not to be repeated. This oil and the incense are only made for the temple. It even says that the oil should not be ever go on just a man.
Because it's not holy then.
Right.
It has to be set apart for a reason. If everyone does it, then it's not holy. It's just common.
We also know that incense can also be considered like the prayers, or within the incense is the prayers. We see this in Revelation 8, 3, and 4. We also see it in Psalms 141:2, where it says that our prayers are the incense. I mean, and the Lord loves it. That's what makes it such a sweet fragrance, right?
Right.
The incense was also said to made Jerusalem smell wonderful. Now, I do want to say this. If you go through history, it is very common in the ancient times to use incense while worshiping false gods. We see that throughout the Tanakh, the Old Testament, that people are, they're taking what should be to the living God and they're giving it to idols. And he's reprimanding them, don't do that. He's not saying don't ever have incense. Like, he's not correcting the nations who are worshiping their false gods for giving their false gods incense. No. But he's saying, the incense you're going to give to me is going to look like this. And it's a very prescribed detail of what he wants. And again, he's going to provide those things, and we have to, or they needed to follow that. And when the temple is later reconstructed, this will be in there again. This is for the prayers. So that will be active, whether it's through the prayers or the incense. the incense will be present in whatever form.
Right.
And if you think about Paul in 12:1 of Romans says, let us be living sacrifices. So that also shows that we, like Yeshua had a role both ways, we too, in a way, have a role both ways. So I found something else cool out this week when I looked, and it was in the beginning of chapter 32, I think, or 31, sorry. And it's where it gives the name, I can't say their names, it's Betzalel, okay? It means in the shadow or the protection of God.
Oh, okay.
He's one of them that's chosen. It's actually Hur's grandson that's chosen to do, I guess, to be the expert in doing the metal work, working with the jewels, the wood, the craftsmanship.
Okay.
And he's going to have a gentleman with him whose name is Oholiabai. No. Let's just act like I didn't
Put
say
it right
that.
there.
Yeah, I'll spell it. Anyway, it means my brother's support. And I thought that's cool because this is the one who's chosen to help. Now, from each of them, it gives their tribes. So her grandson is from the tribe of Judah. And I thought, wait a minute. So if Hur is from the tribe of Judah, that means in Exodus 17, when Moses has his arms up, the tribe of Levi and the tribe of Judah are the two holding him up. Which, there's your king and your priest.
Yes.
Which the two of them
Moses
together.
representing both.
Right. And the two of them, right, it's like a flow chart.
Yeah.
And the two of them working together is what allows Israel as a whole to come to Messiah.
Oh,
I was like, okay, that's really
cool.
cool. Yeah, I thought that was cool. So anyway, these two gentlemen are picked, and it's again tribe of Judah, and the other guys, who I can't say his name, is from tribe of Dan, which means judgment or judges. And the great thing about that is that he's the helper, and we see at the very end times that Dan, the tribe of Dan, is said to be the one that's going to help bring everyone back in, and he's the first to be given land in Ezekiel 47:48 when Messiah comes back and says, good and faithful servant, and starts giving out the land of Israel again.
Well, judgment starts in the house of the Lord.
Right.
So it just makes sense that he would be, judgment would be the one that would get Israel, snap, come on, let's get back.
That's why I love all these little details. I mean, you can't just roll or blow over them. Well, maybe you can so they don't get them next year.
Yeah.
But they all mean something. It's just fantastic. Now, after the sin of the golden calf, we have where Moses goes back up, right? And he's going to get the tablets again. The whole chapter of 34, if you go back and look at Exodus 19 and 20, it's basically a recap of what's going on. Why? Because the first stones were broken. If you remember in Exodus 24, he says he's going up, Moses is going up, and the Lord's going to give him all these things. Right. He went up and did so, but now it's the... please don't kill him, right? Yeah. Please be with us. Please come with us. That's really Moses' heart, is that, Father, you're with us. Because in the first of 34, the Lord says, look, I'm going to send my angel with you. Don't worry, he'll be with you. But Moshe's like, oh, fine, but if you don't come, see, if you together don't come, what good is it? Well, how about that? If we only have Messiah, Yeshua, but we don't have the Father, what good is it?
Right.
We don't get the whole picture.
If they're one, we're just getting half.
Right. And if Messiah is to bring us back into the kingdom with the Father, and we don't recognize the Father, then what do we care? What do we even want to be brought back into?
Right.
So Moshe sees that, and he's like, no, you must be together. You must both be active with us as Israel, or else we're not going. We can't go.
Yeah. Oh, can I say something?
Yeah.
That is so weird you're saying that. I don't know, just ding. I was talking to my mom this weekend, and we were talking about that, and I said, as long as because my Torah portion is Elijah, where he talks about, how long are you going to go between the two, either serve Yahweh or serve Baal. And my mom made a comment. She's like, God, it's just so neat that you can see all of this stuff. And I said, you know what, Mom? It wasn't until I forsook this way that the Lord showed me was wrong and only accepted this that he began to show these things.
Right.
Because as long as you're teetering between the two, he's not going to reveal himself to you truly, because you will twist it and It's out of mercy that he doesn't reveal.
Agreed.
So you just get that Messiah is the way. Okay, awesome. You're just saved by fire.
Yeah,
and
thank
that's
God.
it.
Yeah.
But until you forsake the wrong ways, when he shows you these are wrong, as long as we're like, I know these are wrong, but look how much good it has.
Right.
You can't do that.
There's a lot more to even look at this week, but because of time, we will end that, and maybe we'll cover it next year. We thank you so much for being with us this week. We hope you have a delightful one, and we will see you on the flip side with Julie and the Torah.
Shalom.